Hello everyone and welcome back to Russell's Movie Reviews, the show where I review stuff that's mostly pretty good and maybe one of the best movies of all time, or a film that absolutely sucks and turned me in the depths of hell. Now, last week we discussed Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, and I personally thought that even though, in my personal opinion, it wasn't an all-time masterpiece, I still thought it was a great film overall. Now we get something that I've been waiting to talk about for almost a year now. So last year's Halloween special, you may remember that I discussed Alien and how I thought that that was a really good, science fiction horror film. This year, we're talking its sequel, Aliens, released on July 18th of 1986. Now, does this film really need an introduction? I mean, pretty much everyone knows what Aliens is. But my history with the film is that um I've always heard the debate of which one was better, Alien or Aliens. I never really knew what the films were until I've actually started getting more into the horror genre, and obviously throughout the years I've discovered, what these films were about. And then sometime around, I would say 2017, I would say. This was this was a year into my channel, and I go to Target one day, and I see this, the Aliens 30th Anniversary Collector's Edition, and it was only going, I swear to God, for about $10 to $12 for this set. I was mind blown because I was like, "There's no way that this thing is $12 or like $10 to $12." So I scanned it. Sure enough, it was. So I picked it up, and so far, before I would say July of this year, I've never seen this film. Yes, I know you're gonna hate me for saying that, but yes, I never saw this film. I watched it fully until July of this year, where I was on a random binge. I was like, you know what? Let's sit down and watch Aliens because I know I'm gonna be talking about it this year. Might as well watch it. So I watched it, got my initial thoughts on it, and then obviously watched it again for this review, and my opinion has not changed on it. So you guys could guess what my opinion is on this. If you guys are fans of this film, you guys may already know what I'm going to think about this, but we'll save that for the end. Um, so this film was made on an $18.5 million budget. Domestically, it made over 85 million, and worldwide, it made over 131 million. So this was a massive success. Um, in that year's Oscars, I believe, this film was nominated for 7 Oscars. If you guys don't know what the Oscars are, it's basically just a general reward for a film to get, basically. Um, and it's a show based aired every, I think, 2 years. And basically just goes over what you know if any films that you're, how, production design, acting, directors, shit like that. Yeah, this film was nominated for 7 of them. I believe won 3 or 4, and Sigourney Weaver was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actress. Holy shit. So you know that this film is, something when it's nominated for 7 Oscars. Which makes sense given that the director for this film is James Cameron, who before this, he got his first directing job on, I believe, Piranha 2, um, and then got his big break really with the Terminator in 1984, which was a massive success as well. Granted, though, that one's more of a kind of independent sort of thing, while this one was like a big studio kind of film. I believe Terminator was made on a budget of like, I could be totally wrong about this, around like 6 million, I believe. And this one was over double its budget. and both of them were successes. And obviously, he would go on to direct The Abyss after this. Obviously, he went on to go and direct Terminator 2: Judgment Day, which is one of the best sequels ever made. Which, by the way, yeah, this film is claimed to be one of the best sequels ever made, along with Terminator 2. After that, really, my mind's just a blank between Terminator and Avatar in 2009. So, oh no, but then he also made Titanic as well in '97. So yeah, he has really, what's the word? A very generous career. With some of the most well-known and, in some cases, highest-grossing films ever made. Along with some of the biggest budgets for any film I could think of. Because I know with Terminator 2, I know I'm going off of a tangent here, but Terminator 2, I believe, started out with a $20 million budget, then ballooned to $50 million, and then $80 million, and then passing the $100 million mark, which back in '91 was unheard of in films. Where now it's like, oh yeah, it's easy for an Avengers film to get $120 million budget for their films. So yeah, it's not uncommon now, but back then it was like, holy shit, like this is big. And Terminator 2 being so successful, Titanic being so successful, Avatar. I think Avatar is still at this point the highest ranking film ever at over $1 billion. Obviously not the biggest franchise because there's no other films after this currently, and there's certainly other franchises that have passed the $1 billion mark. But in terms of solo films, yeah, it's probably ranked number one. But anyway, let's stop talking about Avatar. Let's talk about aliens. So yeah, I guess we'll just go on to the plot. So after floating in space all asleep, Lieutenant Ripley's shuttle, played by Sigourney Weaver, Lieutenant Ripley, who again is played by Sigourney Weaver, is found by Deep Space Salvage Team. Upon waking up from her long sleep, she finds out that not only she's been asleep for 57 years, but also that her daughter has passed away. She keeps on getting nightmares about the alien and figures out that there's a colony on LV-426. She's offered to go, but refuses initially. But after she has another nightmare, she agrees to go to LV-426 with a squad of 10 Marines after she's told that the colony has gone quiet. Upon arriving to LV-426, the Marines find only one survivor, a little girl named Newt, played by Carrie Hen. But even these battle-hardened Marines, with all the latest weaponry, are no match for the hundreds of aliens that have invaded the colony. So, what else is there to say about this film that hasn't already been said? People have already gone into depth about this film, and I probably am going to as well. But it's slated as one of the best films ever made, and one of the best sequels ever made. So people have talked into depth about this. What else can I say about it? Well, there's actually quite a lot. I could possibly have a different opinion against everyone else, but again, we'll figure that out as the review goes on. So this was made obviously as the sequel to Alien about 7 years later after the original, because the original came out in '79, and obviously this one came out in '86. So about a 7-year gap between them. And originally, from what I've heard from several behind the scenes featurettes on like the Blu-ray and on the internet, their original plans for the sequel was that they weren't gonna follow Ripley. Especially if they were gonna follow immediately, like if they were gonna go into a sequel immediately after the first film. which is surprising considering the fact that that the first film did successful. I think it made at least over 100 million. So, it's kind of surprising that they weren't going to follow Ripley after the if they were gonna do it straight after the original, which again is surprising. But then ideas kept on going back and forth about what the idea for the sequel should be. Um, and finally they landed on, I believe, but yeah, they kept on going around to different directors, and then finally landed in James Cameron's lap. Which again, by this point, so this is about, I would say, 82, 83 when they. Oh yeah, because the original CEO of 20th Century Fox, I'm forgetting the name. Oh yeah, so okay, I'm missing a lot of stuff. Okay, so I forgot his name, but the president of 20th Century Fox by the time, during the production of Alien was in, oh yeah, Alan Ladd Jr. Was in total support of this, of a sequel being made. But I believe soon after the first Alien film was released, he left the company and a new CEO came on, and which he had no intentions to follow the story of Ellen Ripley. I believe by the time of 83, they had a new CEO again, and this new CEO was like, okay, I actually want to, see how this goes. Uh, so, like, I want to, want to make a sequel, and I wanted to follow Ripley. And so they, started going around with directors, and then landed with James Cameron. So, yeah, this is about 83, 84. So, yeah, I would say 83 because by this point, James Cameron was still trying to work on the Terminator. And he had to stop production on the Terminator because Arnold Schwarzenegger, who obviously was the Terminator, had to go away for about 6 to 9 months so that he can work on Conan the Destroyer, which is obviously the sequel to Conan the Barbarian. So while he was going to do that, Cameron just was like, well, since I got nothing else to do, I might as well continue on with working on this Aliens project. Because before Arnold left to go and film for Conan the Destroyer, I believe he wrote an initial draft, and then Arnold went to go and film that. And while he was gone, he went on and did more drafts of the script. And then obviously he went back to working on the Terminator, released it. It was a success in America. So, um, uh, so after the Terminator was a success, the studio was like, okay, we'll let you direct Aliens. Um, so after he got on, it was a lot of production and stuff. So this was around, I would say, 84. Uh, so like around the end, either mid or end of 84. So you had about 2 years, I would say, to work on Aliens. So with that backstory or kind of pre-production out of the way, let's go on to the cast. Now, with Aliens, there's a lot of characters in this film that we know about, at least in the film. So, mixing, especially with all the Marines. So, I'm only going to be discussing the major characters that we actually really get to know throughout the course of the film. So, um, I'm just gonna be discussing the major characters, not really anything else. So, we obviously have Sigourney Weaver portraying as Ellen Ripley. And like I said earlier, she was not going to be originally in the film, but when they finally decided, okay, we'll bring on Ellen Ripley, she wasn't cheap. I believe her payments are, so yeah, she wasn't gonna come cheap. So they were like, you know what, screw it. Well, we're not bringing Ellen Ripley back. And then James Cameron was like, all right, if you're not bringing Ellen Ripley back, I'm walking. Like I'm not directing this. And they're like, well, shit. We kind of need him with this. So they're like, okay, you can stay, and we'll pay her the amount that she wants. Which I believe was about $1 million at the time. Which back then, at the time, it was huge. So, so yeah, and she does fantastic in this role, returning as Ellen Ripley. We have Carrie Hen as Newt, or Rebecca as her actual name is. Newt was apparently one of the hardest characters to cast. Apparently hundreds of school children were screen tested but never made it. Well, yeah, school children and kids that were acting actually. They eventually landed on Carrie Hen, despite the fact that she never acted in a film before. Despite that kind of you know that kind of barrier, she does great with what she's given, and she's you know kind of you know she's kind of the replacement for Jonesy in the original, which is kind of funny because they're always chasing Jonesy, or at least Ripley was in the original. Then she leaves the cat behind to go to LV-426, and then basically it's swapped between they take the cat out and they're like, okay, let's just put this little girl in that kind of slot. So yeah, but yeah, she does great with the role. We have the fantastic Michael Biehn as Corporal Dwayne Hicks, who is one of these squad leaders. Now, you guys are fans of my channel. You guys may remember that I've already talked about Michael Biehn in Tombstone, which ironically came, I would say about 7 years after this film. And he did a great role in that one, and he does even more great in this because at this point he played Kyle Reese in The Terminator, so that was like really what he was known for, and he does great in this role. We have the fantastic late Bill Paxton as Private Hudson. Out of all the Marines, damn, that's a hard one to pick. Which one's my favorite? Because I love Hicks. Kind of just cool and calm under pressure. Hudson with all the wisecracking one-liners. Which, by the way, R.I.P. to Bill Paxton. He died, I believe, in like 2016. So that's sad thing to realize. We have Jeannette Goldstein as Private Vasquez. She does great. She's kind of just like the badass who, doesn't really take shit from anyone. We have Paul Reiser as Carter J. Burke, who is, I mean, he does great with the role, but we'll talk about him later when I get to, well, yeah, just a little bit later. We have Al Matthews as Sergeant Apone. And he does great with the role. If you guys are Superman fans, you guys may remember Al Matthews as the fire chief at the chemical plant in Superman 3. So we have William Hope as Lieutenant Gorman. He's all right with the role, but it's kind of just played up as like him being the kind of like the first time like it's the first day on the job, and already within the first day shit starts going down like real quick. And finally we have Mark Walston as Private Drake, who which, by the way, I forgot to mention this with Vasquez. Drake and Vasquez are experts in the smart gun, which I'll get to the weaponry in a little bit. Um, but yeah, they're the only two out of this group of Marines that are trained in that gun. Because apparently it takes a lot of skill in order to wield that. It's never really explained why, you know, they are the only two that can handle that are carrying around the smart gun and can actually use it. So it's kind of just a little bit weird that out of all of them, they're the only two that can handle the smart gun while everyone else is carrying the regular pulse rifles and shit like that. And so yeah. But like I said earlier, it's so hard to try and pick a favorite out of the Marines because you have Hicks, who is cool and calm under pressure. We have Hudson, who is the wisecracking, you know smart ass kind of character who, after all the shit starts going down, he just starts having a mental breakdown. We have Vasquez, who is the badass woman who doesn't really take shit from anyone. You have Sergeant Apone, who is obviously the main commander out of for all the Marines. And he's also kind of the one who just doesn't take shit from any of the other ones. But if I on like, it's honestly a tie between Hicks, Hudson, and Vasquez for me. They're just so memorable, and especially what happens in the Marines. Pretty early, like about halfway in the film, you really start to like those three, which I'll get to in a little bit. Um, But since I might as well, since I kind of mentioned them a little bit ago, let's talk about the weaponry in this film because the weaponry in this film is some of the most iconic weapons in film history. Going along with James Bond's Walther PPK or the Terminator shotgun in Terminator 2, or some of the Men in Black weapons. Like the mind wiping device. These are some of the most well known you know movie film weapons ever made. So we obviously have the pulse rifle, which is basically just an M16 rifle. Well, obviously not direct in like exactly, but it's an M16 rifle with a underneath shotgun kind of grenade launcher, and I fucking love it. We also have, like as I mentioned ago, the smart gun, which is basically just a Gatling gun version of the pulse rifle, which again in this film, only Vasquez and Drake are kind of capable of using. And then we also have the incinerators, which are flamethrowers. Kind of like in the first film, where it's a different design between the first film and the second film, which makes sense, kind of, because it's 60 years canonically between the first film and the second film, so obviously the designs have changed. But also, it's like that one's just like a scientific kind of vessel, whereas these ones in this film are way more like militaristic. So it makes sense for the design change, uh, but they still are awesome. Um, I know there is you can certainly get props of the pulse rifle. I'm not exactly sure for the smart gun and the flamethrower. But I know in Aliens, Fire Team Elite, which is the newest Aliens game that came out, you can use obviously the pulse rifles and smart guns in that film. I believe you could also use the flamethrowers in that one. What's stupid in that game though is the grenade launcher on the pulse rifles is removed. While obviously in these films, it's pretty freaking obvious. You literally see it right there underneath the main barrel. I'm trying to see if I can. Yeah, right there, and there's the grenade launcher. Uh, that part just is not there in the game, which is kind of stupid. Maybe in a future update they might do that. But anyway, it's sidetracked. Um, but yeah, if I had an opportunity to use these rifles, I absolutely will because these rifles are badass, and the sound design is great for them as well. They're not just using those standard, assault rifle, sound effects. that Warner Brothers or even 20th Century Fox were using. They actually made custom kind of sounds for these rifles, and they sound fucking awesome. Like, you can literally just look them up on YouTube, and oh man, it's beautiful sound design. I believe it actually got nominated and won an Oscar for sound design, for best sound design in the film, which is commendable, fantastic. So I guess to go into favorite scenes, because I just want to keep on talking about this film because this film is just so you know memorable with tons of iconic things, but you know stuff. In terms of favorite scenes, I can't really pick one. Um, the entire film is a favorite scene in my opinion. Which actually kind of gave away what my rating was, but anyway, um, this whole film is my favorite scene, so I can't really pick one. But if I had to choose a few, the the first one, without a doubt, is the Hive Sequence, where after Hudson has managed to find the personal data transmitters of all the colonists, they head over to the atmosphere processor. And by this point in the film, you have not seen a single alien in the entire film. It's about we just hit the hour mark by this point when they're going to enter into the hive. So you have not seen any sort of there's been a few jump scares, but obviously not aliens. So this entire sequence, is by this point, it's hell suspenseful, and you can easily find the whole entire hive battle in on YouTube in its entirety, which I do recommend. I might even put a link down in the description below to one of them, but suffice to say that this is like one of the most iconic shootouts in um in film history, where all the Marines head down to the sub level 3 to go and look for the colonists, and you see that just great shot of the entrance to the hive as all the Marines are walking through, and then obviously I can go on this, I can just talk about the scene for hours, but um you know like I said, I'm gonna link a video down in the description below, which is basically the entire Hive sequence. Or you just buy the movie and watch it for yourself. But anyway, um, uh, that's my first favorite scene. My second favorite scene will probably have to be, really just the whole battle sequence in Ops. Um, Actually, even no, even before that, there's a sequence with the face huggers. So by this point, um, we've seen the face huggers in these glass containers. Um, and then we cut to Newt and Ripley. They're sleeping in one of the med bays, and Ripley wakes up and sees that these glass containers have been opened, and she's like, "Oh shit, the face huggers are out." And this is another moment where, like, really the music, kind of, you know, it's all kind of quiet. You only hear it subtly in the background, and then all of a sudden the facehugger just jumps out and leaps on them, and obviously not on them, but leaps at the bed, and it just goes off, and I'm like, oh my god, the sequence is amazing. Um, um, and then that's my second favorite scene. And my third favorite scene is, as I mentioned, the whole battle sequence in Ops, where they're going to throw Burke out after they figured out that he's the one that threw the facehuggers in there with Ripley and Newt, and then all of a sudden the power goes out, and you're like, what the fuck? And then you see, because they have these trackers where they get sense motion, um, they they see like all of them like start coming towards them, and so they seal the door. And then as they slowly get like six down like 10 meters, 9 meters, like 8, 7, they're like, what the hell are you talking about, Hudson? They should be in the room. And they're like, what? They should be in the room as you're, if this is correct. And he's like, dude, look at it. It's like real. And then like Ripley looks at it and then she's like, oh shit, yeah, no, he ain't kidding. And then you look up and you hear them in the roof. And one of the most iconic shots in the entire film is Hicks like standing up on top of the desk with and opens up the roof with a flashlight, and then that shot of just all of the aliens like just crawling in the roof. And so when he falls down and shoots off his rifle, and all of a sudden you just see them crashing through the roof, and it's like, oh my god! And they start going off, and you hear the music, and it's like, oh my god, it's fucking overload. And then my final favorite scene, really, is like the last 30 minutes of the film where Ripley goes in to find Newt. Well, actually, no, I'm gonna split this up. My fourth favorite scene is when Ripley goes in to rescue Newt after she's been captured by the aliens, or the xenomorphs, I should say, because that's technically what they're called. Where she has like the tracker like Newt that Hicks gave to him, and she gave to Newt. She's running throughout the hive, and she zeroes in on it, and it's just the tracker, and she's gone. And you just lose all hope. You're like, oh fuck, they just kill her off. No. And then you cut to a shot of her in this kind of, nest kind of thing. As this egg opens up, she screams, and Ripley comes into the rescue, shoots the facehugger, kills a couple xenomorphs, rescues her. They go running off into this room, and you notice that there's eggs on the floor. And they look over and they see this kind of egg sac chamber releasing one of the eggs. And you get this panning shot of the cutting from the panning shot of them looking at this umbilical cord to cutting back to Ripley, and then the reveal of the alien queen. This bitch is just so fucking amazing. And you're like, oh my god. That's the one big motherfucker. And then, they torch all the eggs. And then they go running off into the elevators. Start going up the elevator as like the queen is like right behind them. They get up to the top, they go onto the platform, and then you realize that Bishop is gone. And you're like, Bishop, you fucking asshole! Why do you do this to us? And then you think it's like a whole Ash moment, because like obviously in the original film, because Bishop in this film, which also actually, did I write him down? No. Lance Hendrickson as Bishop. He was synthetic, like Ash in the original. So you think that it's like, oh fuck, it's a whole Ash moment again. Which, by the way, if you guys don't remember, in the original film, Ash kind of starts malfunctioning, starts attacking Ripley, attacking Parker, and then Parker kind of decapitates him, and that's where like the big reveal, like, oh my god, he's an android. And then it's kind of like that moment where it's like, oh fuck, you fucking asshole, Bishop. And then you turn around and you see, the queen come out, and you're like, oh fuck, they're dead. And all of a sudden, Bishop comes up and like, hey, what's up, motherfuckers? They get Newt and Ripley. He flies off, and the whole, the colony explodes. And you're like, ah, is it over? Is it over? They have a quick conversation between Ripley and Bishop, where she's like, "You're actually not half bad. You did good." And he's like, "I did." And he's like, "Yeah, you're not half bad, Bishop." And then they look down and you see the acid ring. You're like, "Ah, fuck!" And then all of a sudden, Bishop just gets impaled by the queen tail, and you're like, "Ah, shit!" And as he gets lifted up, you see like the queen just pop up out of the shadows and rip him in half. And you're like, "Oh my fuck!" And then she Ripley distracts her one way. The queen runs over and starts trying to capture Newt. And then all of a sudden the door opens up and she's at a fucking power loader. And what my favorite line in the entire film, you've had the great lines from Hudson where it's like, it's game over, man, it's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do? To, right after that, Bert going like, let's just make a campfire, sing a couple of songs. And then after that, from Newt, like, her going, we better hurry because it's almost nighttime and they mostly come out at night, mostly, you know, um, like I said, like literally every single line from Hudson is so memorable. But this line right here is my favorite. When she walks out in the power loader, she just looks at him, looks at the queen with the most pissed off look, and she just goes, "Get away from her, you bitch!" And you're like, "Yes!" And then all of a sudden, the boxing match goes on. You're like, "Oh my fucking god, it's going on! It's going down!" And then they start having a boxing match pretty much. That she gets like a couple good swings at the queen. The queen gets a couple jabs at Ellen, and then she gets the queen in the chokehold. You see the inner jaw trying to go and get her. She gets off like a little flamethrower and starts trying to back her off. She puts her over this hole, finally getting the clamp on her, trying to drop her. And when she goes to drop her, the queen just grabs onto the power loader and yanks her down. And you're like, oh fuck, no, why? And then they both fall down. She tries to climb up, but then the queen grabs her leg. And you're like, oh god, no, why? And then she opens up the airlock, and all of a sudden you see the power loader go out. You see Bishop go flying backwards, but he managed to like grab onto a gate. Newt goes like tries to grab onto it, but she lets go and she starts flying back. And then Bishop manages to catch her, and you know Ripley's there like trying to hold on with all of her might. The queen's there holding onto her foot. Finally, she kicks like she lets go and like kind of just yanks her off, and the queen just yanks off the shoe, goes flying out, and then Ripley climbs out of the hole and closes up the airlock, and then they go into car sleep, and then that's the end of the film. And it's like, oh fucking Christ, that was a whole ordeal, man. And that's why I fucking love this movie, because it's just so action packed and it's fucking awesome. Might as well go on, talk about the special effects, since I don't actually really talk about them that much. I believe in the original film it was, a whole team in England, and it was led by, I'm actually forgetting his name, but the guy obviously designed the original Alien. But in this film, we had a longtime collaborator with James Cameron in the form of Stan Winston, who has worked on hundreds of classic films, including Aliens, who unfortunately did pass away in 2009, right after, surprisingly, the completion of Terminator Salvation. But yeah, the effects in this film are fucking great. There's only two shots that I can recall that actually didn't look that good. It was the shot of Ripley in the power loader, not in the final scene, but earlier before they drop down into LP-426, carrying a crate, and it's obviously like a blue screen or green screen kind of like reprojection kind of thing. It's obvious. The shot of at the end when the queen falls out of the airlock, it's kind of obvious that's like a really ropey kind of puppet. But besides that, all of them are fucking great. There's one shot in the film that isn't bad, but it's actually more of a correction with this Blu-ray release. I don't know if it's with the theatrical cut, because I watched the special edition for this review. Which, by the way, the special edition has about, I think actually, I don't even know if it says it on the, on here. Okay, yeah, the theatrical cut is at, actually, does it even say it? I don't think it does. But I know that I believe the theatrical cut is about 2 hours and 17 minutes, while the special edition is at 2:37, so about 20 minutes of extra footage in the special edition. Um, and but there's one shot in the original theatrical print, which again I don't know if it's in the Blu-ray release for the theatrical cut. But originally, in the shot where Bishop catches Newt, you could see that there's a hole in the ground where Lance Hendrickson can pop his body through the cut off body, obviously, and then catch Newt. But in the special edition, or in the at least in the Blu-ray version, they restored it so that you don't see the hole, which is actually great care to detail that they actually care about this film. Um. So yeah. Um. But yeah, really. Um. If you're really gonna actually no, I'm gonna discuss that later. But obviously, like I said, or have been saying for a little bit, this film has two cuts to it. It has the theatrical cut, which again runs at 2 hours and 17 minutes, and then we have the extended or the special edition, which runs at 2 hours and 37 minutes. And I watched the special edition for this review. I just feel like that that there's just a lot more with the special edition compared to the theatrical. But again, I'll discuss that at the end. Um, I guess to talk about the fun facts real quick, since I was only able to fill one because usually I have one at the bottom and one underneath the music. But since I basically filled out a good chunk of the paper with the summary, and then obviously at the bottom filled out with the cast members, I was only able to have one for this. But did you know that according to Bill Paxton, he improvised many of Hudson's most famous one-liners. Apparently the "It's game over, man, it's game over" that was improvised along with fuck, what was the other one? I forgot what the other one was, but yeah, most of his most iconic one-liners in the film are were improvised by Bill Paxton. So, R.I.P. my boy Bill Paxton, you were great, a great actor. Um, so, and speaking of the score, this score was composed by the fantastic James Horner, who, yeah, if you guys are fans of my channel, you guys may remember that he did the scores for Star Trek 2 and 3. Um, and he obviously did he did Star Trek 2, then 3, and then I think he did Crawl. Uh, yeah, he did Crawl before he went on to work on Aliens. Um, according to James Horner, uh, the actual production for himself was a nightmare because he flew out to the UK expecting them to be done filming and then going into the editing process, but he was surprised to find out that they were still filming. And so any music that he composed for any sort of scene might be cut or trimmed, kind of destroying the timing of the music. So um he later stated that I believe he was only able to complete about 60%, 60 to 70% of the music, and he asked James Cameron to push the film back by I believe about 4 weeks, so that he can be 100%, with the score. But James Cameron wouldn't budge. So, like I said, he was only able to complete about 60 to 70% of what he wanted to do with the score. Um, and after this, he felt like that. Since he had such a bad time working on the film, he thought that he would never work with James Cameron again. But surprisingly, Cameron actually asked him to compose the score for Titanic after listening to his score for Braveheart in '95. and then they kind of rekindle their relationship, or the friendship from there. And I also believe that the music for the final scene between Ripley and the Queen was literally composed overnight. I think that according to some sources, Cameron completely reworked the scene, so that means that Horner had to go back and rescore the entire scene, and yeah. Uh, so when the film came out, I believe there was a soundtrack release that had about I think about 30 to 40 minutes of music. And then sometime in the 2000s, 2010s, they came out with a deluxe edition, which has the complete score on it. Um, you can easily get that score on like Intrada and on Amazon and stuff like that. But if you don't want to do that, there's also an isolated soundtrack on the Blu-ray for this. So yeah. So if you don't want to, fork out some money to getting the soundtrack individually, you could also just get the soundtrack as a part of the Blu-ray. But the soundtrack for Aliens is fucking great. One of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Going along with the Superman scores, the Star Trek scores, for at least all of the original series films. They're all great. All the Christopher Reeve Superman scores are great. I would easily lump Aliens into that category. Um, Along with Alien 3 and the original Alien. So, yeah. But like I said, you can easily find the score easily on Intrada and Amazon. I'll leave those links down in the description below if you guys want to go and listen to that. I believe it's on streaming services as well. So, final thoughts. Oh, actually, no. Before we get on to that, might as well go over this fantastic 30th anniversary box set. As you guys can see, my box has definitely gone through some wear and tear, especially with the fact that I've had this thing for about 3 to 4 years. So we have this fantastic cover art, obviously commissioned specifically for this release. There's the spine, and there's the bag with everything that comes with it. And then we take this out. Kind of like with the Halloween 4 case, it comes with a very nice kind of hard case to kind of protect the Blu-ray and everything that's in it. So here is the Blu-ray, which is I believe the 2014 release. Yep. So there's the front, spine, and the back. Oh, there goes the mic. Special features wise, obviously has the 2 cuts along with audio commentary with director James Cameron, cast and crew, an introduction by James Cameron only for the special edition, a final theatrical isolated score by James Horner, and then the composer's original isolated score, again by James Horner, and deleted and extended scenes. And there's the disc inside. Now, also with this release, there's a couple of neat little extras as well, them being art cards and illustrated comic reprint. And obviously there you see Hudson, Hicks, and Vasquez with the tagline for the film. And there's Ripley on the back. So let's open this up. And we'll take this out. Let's go over the art cards first. So we have, and these are all like storyboards and like illustrations and stuff that they did during the production of the film. So there is Ellen versus the Queen in the power loader. We have looks like a picture of a sketch of the Hive, and then we have a couple designs for the Marines. Oh yeah, and then we have this shot of the cocooned woman who eventually has a chest burster. There's another shot of the Hive, and then we have a full body shot of the Queen, and then we have some more just structure stuff for the Hive. And that looks like Actually, that looks like the yeah, the umbilical cord and then the queen right there. And then kind of just more designs of the inner. So, yeah. Um so yeah, a lot of very interesting sort of stuff. Um in terms of these art cards, which are just like standard art cards, not like how like some of them some like releases make the art cards into also make them into postcards, which I kind of don't really like when they do that, but they're companies, so whatever. Can't really argue about what they do. Um, Sometimes, yeah, it's a real bitch trying to get these in. As you guys can tell, mine has suffered definitely some wear and tear trying to keep on pulling these out. And then we have the art book, which was made by Dark Horse Comics, sorry, not Comics. Um, this is from this is just sketches from the Aliens comics that they've been releasing for years now by this point. Um, so yeah. Sorry if I'm kind of quiet doing this. I've actually recognized that image before and actually seen one of that cover art before in like the actual like comic style. And then I think that's the last. Oh no, here's the last two. So yeah, that's really all that comes with this. Obviously, it did come with a digital copy, which unfortunately I did not claim, or wasn't able to, I should say, because one of you guys, because I believe I know I definitely showed this in like collection videos and stuff like that, but I believe I might have also done a like an unboxing of this, and one of you guys definitely claims the code for it. So now I'm kind of sad about that, and oh god, no, this is gonna be a pain. Um, Now I'm gonna have to try and figure out another way to get the digital copy for it as well. So whoever it is that took my copy of my digital copy of Aliens, hope you know that you will not be God damn it. You will. I'll remember you. Whoever you are. So, yeah. So, um, going along with that. Final thoughts on Aliens. Fantastic film. No doubt about it. I fucking love this film, and I'm honestly kind of sad that I did not watch this film earlier. Like maybe when I first got this collection or this box set, I should say. But I still, to this day, love it. It's one of my favorite films of all time, actually. And really, can you blame me for this? Because this is one of the most well-known sequels ever made, one of the best sequels ever made. Is it better than Terminator 2? Maybe, in my opinion. No, but like honestly, this is one of my favorite films of all time. It's an absolute masterpiece. There's honestly nothing wrong with this film, in my opinion, and I'm not ashamed to give this film an A+. It absolutely deserves it. So that was my review on Aliens, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Stay tuned for next week for the finale of the second annual Halloween special, where I'm going to be talking about Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and Halloween 4, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Sorry, I was reading my hat. You can click over here on my channel profile. I just hit my mic again. To go to my channel, or click down there, my username down there. And make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to get notified when future videos are coming out. And you can click over here to watch the latest 2 videos. And yeah. Make sure to also follow me on my social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Those will be all down in the description below. Make sure to follow me on Twitch as well, because I will be doing some live streams every once in a while. In my last video, I said go subscribe to OddBoyFJ because I'm going to be doing a collaboration with him in November. So I might link his channel down in the description again, or just go to that video and just go to that channel on there. I put the link in that video. Um, and if you guys want to, go and check out the Aliens soundtrack from either Entrada or um, what's his face, Amazon. So yeah, anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for next week for the end of the second Halloween special, where I'm going to be discussing Halloween 3 and Halloween 4. Live long and prosper. Out.